The crowd burst into laughter the very moment the young woman lifted her auction paddle and offered $100 for the old rusty chest that everyone else had ignored. The heavy iron box looked as if it had spent decades forgotten beneath leaking roofs and dusty barns. Its surface was covered with deep rust, the hinges were frozen, and thick welds sealed every edge so tightly that opening it seemed impossible. People whispered that only someone desperate or foolish would waste even a single dollar on such worthless scrap. Yet while everyone laughed, the young woman stood quietly beneath the bright morning sun with determination shining in her eyes. She wasn't smiling because she believed there was treasure inside. She was smiling because sometimes the world throws away things simply because no one cares enough to look twice. Before this incredible journey continues, please take a moment to like this video, comment below, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to our channel, Little Kindness Tales, if stories of hope and compassion inspire your heart. Your support helps us bring more unforgettable stories just like this one. The young woman's name was Maris Bennett, a 26-year-old restorer who spent her days repairing forgotten antiques that most people considered beyond saving. She never came from wealth. After losing both parents before finishing college, she survived by working long hours in a small restoration workshop on the edge of a quiet countryside town. Every piece she repaired reminded her that damaged things still deserved another chance. Old furniture, broken clocks, faded paintings, and cracked wooden chests all carried silent stories waiting to be discovered. That belief had become the foundation of her life. The estate auction was being held outside a beautiful farmhouse on a warm spring morning. Birds sang from tall oak trees while colorful flowers bloomed along the gravel driveway. Families wandered between tables filled with furniture, books, silverware, paintings, and forgotten household treasures. Professional collectors competed fiercely for expensive items while children chased butterflies across the green lawn. Everything about the day felt cheerful except for one lonely object sitting near the back of the property. Covered in dust and rust, the welded chest rested beneath an old maple tree where almost nobody bothered to stop. The auctioneer explained that the chest had been discovered inside a collapsed storage shed belonging to the late Edmund Holbrook, a quiet widower who had lived on the estate for nearly 50 years. Since nobody could open it, nobody knew what was inside. Some guessed it contained worthless tools. Others joked that it probably held nothing except dirt and rats. A few believed the previous owner had welded it shut because it was empty and wanted to fool future buyers. Every theory ended with laughter. Maris noticed something that everyone else ignored. Despite the rust covering the outside, the lock area showed tiny scratches that looked surprisingly recent. Someone had tried to reach the opening many years after the chest had already aged. Even stranger, the welds looked carefully applied instead of hurriedly patched. Whoever sealed the chest wanted it protected, not discarded. Those details awakened the curiosity that had guided Maris throughout her career. She quietly placed the winning bid of $100. As workers struggled to load the chest onto her old pickup truck, several people continued laughing. One collector sarcastically congratulated her for buying the most expensive pile of rust in town. Another joked that the scrap metal might at least pay for lunch. Maris simply thanked them politely and drove away beneath the clear blue sky, refusing to let their opinions change her mind. Her tiny workshop stood beside a peaceful river where sunlight reflected across the water every afternoon. The building was old but welcoming, filled with wooden shelves holding carefully restored antiques waiting for new owners. Plants decorated every window, and soft daylight poured through the large glass doors. Maris believed good work deserved natural light instead of dark corners. The chest immediately became her greatest challenge. For several days she carefully cleaned away layers of rust without damaging the metal underneath. Every inch required patience. She photographed each stage, examined every weld, and searched for hidden markings. Eventually she discovered something extraordinary. Beneath the corrosion appeared a beautifully engraved family crest surrounded by elegant vines and tiny birds. This had never been an ordinary storage box. It had once been a masterpiece crafted by skilled hands. Still, opening it remained impossible. Instead of forcing the lid apart, Maris contacted an elderly blacksmith named Jonas Weaver, one of the last craftsmen in the county who still specialized in historical metalwork. After carefully examining the chest in the bright afternoon sunlight, Jonas quietly admitted that the welds were not original. They had been added decades later by someone trying to preserve whatever rested inside from moisture, theft, or destruction. That single observation changed everything. Together they spent nearly 2 full days slowly removing the protective welds without harming the chest itself. Sparks flew gently across the workshop while the afternoon breeze carried away tiny clouds of dust. Every careful cut brought them closer to answering the mystery that had puzzled everyone at the auction. Finally, late on the 3rd day, the lid moved. Both of them held their breath. Inside they did not find glittering gold coins or priceless jewelry. Instead, they found dozens of neatly wrapped oilcloth packages, each carefully protected from moisture. Beneath those rested leather journals, hand-drawn maps, family photographs, official documents, faded letters tied with blue ribbon, and a small carved wooden box. At first glance, many people would still have called the contents worthless. But Maris understood history. She gently unfolded one document after another until she realized the papers recorded hundreds of charitable land donations made anonymously by Edmund Holbrook's family nearly 80 years earlier. The journals revealed stories of families rescued from poverty during the Great Depression, children whose education had been secretly funded, struggling farmers whose debts had quietly been paid without expecting gratitude, and countless acts of generosity never shared with the public. Edmund had protected the evidence not because he wanted recognition, but because he feared greedy relatives would destroy it after his death. The carved wooden box held something even more remarkable. Inside rested dozens of handwritten letters from people whose lives had been transformed through unexpected kindness. Every letter thanked an unknown benefactor without ever learning his real identity. Some described children who survived difficult winters because food arrived at exactly the right moment. Others told of scholarships, medical treatments, or homes rebuilt after devastating storms. Reading those words brought tears to Maris's eyes. The rusty chest had never hidden riches. It had protected an entire lifetime of compassion. Maris knew these documents belonged somewhere far greater than her workshop. Instead of selling them to collectors, she contacted the local historical society and spent weeks helping experts preserve every fragile page. Historians soon confirmed that the journals filled major gaps in the county's history, revealing that countless community landmarks had survived only because of Edmund's quiet generosity. News spread quickly. The same people who had laughed at the auction now visited the museum exhibition created from the restored collection. They stood silently before the letters, realizing how easily they had judged both the chest and the young woman who believed it deserved another chance. One elderly visitor quietly admitted that he had mocked Maris the loudest that morning. After reading the letters, he donated several forgotten family heirlooms to the museum instead of throwing them away. Others began searching their own attics, discovering photographs and journals that helped preserve local history before they disappeared forever. Maris never became rich from the discovery. But something even greater happened. Her restoration workshop became known as a place where forgotten stories could live again. Families trusted her with treasured heirlooms. Students visited to learn restoration skills. Volunteers offered time to preserve old memories before they vanished forever. What began with one rusty welded chest slowly inspired an entire community to value history, kindness, and patience instead of appearances. Before we reach the ending, tell us in the comments, have you ever found something valuable where everyone else saw only something worthless? We'd love to read your story. As the months passed, Maris often walked past the now restored chest displayed in the museum. It no longer represented mystery or hidden wealth. It represented hope. It reminded every visitor that the greatest treasures are often not measured by money but by the lives they quietly change. Just as rust can hide beautiful craftsmanship, hardship can hide extraordinary people waiting for someone willing to believe in them. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and leave a comment to help these messages of kindness reach more people around the world. And don't forget to subscribe to Little Kindness Tales for more emotional stories that remind us that second chances, compassion, and hope can change lives forever. Sometimes the world's greatest treasure isn't what we find inside a chest, it is the kindness we choose to carry in our own hearts every single day.